Our Hebrew brothers and sisters, 12 tribes of Israel, scattered all over the world. This is your Moreh, Yeshua ben Uriah Israel, and we welcome you back and hope that you've been experiencing Yah's blessing in your life as we take this journey back towards Abaya. The last session that we dealt with in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 8, and we're dealing with the Balm in Gilead, and we'll stop at I think part 1C. Now, there was an error in not putting the C, in the part 1C. So when you come to that video that has to do with the Balm in Gilead, and it doesn't have any additional thing like say part 1, we know that that's the C, okay? And sometimes we're trying to do things and the evil one is trying to trip us up, especially when we're trying to speak the truth. Okay? So the last time, last session rather, we were in verse 8, and we talk about verse 8, where, the prophet was talking to the people, and he said, listen, how they said, we are wise and have the Torah. And they said the Torah is with them, but they look, and doing the false worship, they, going the ways of evil men, false pen of the scribe. The scribe is writing things that is not truthful, going against Yahuwah. But remember we said that in verse 9, the wise shall be put to shame. There's a term that I used in the last session, intransigence. An intransigent person is a person who, even though they know they're going the wrong way, but they refuse to turn. They refuse to compromise. They refuse to, agree that the things that they're doing is wrong. Okay? That's an intransigent person. Okay, so it said, the wise shall be put to shame. So these people, they're going to be put to shame. And, they shall be broken down and be caught. And see, they have rejected the word of Yahuwah. So what is wisdom? What is wisdom about that? The person said that they're wise, but they're refusing to do what Yahuwah said. That's not wise. That's not wise. But look at what he said. Look at what he said in verse 10. Therefore, it's like drawing a conclusion there. He said, I give their wives to others, and their fields to possessing ones. For from the least even to the greatest, they are all greedy for gain. From the prophet to the priest, all act falsely. Wow. So then, look what happened. In slavery, our ancestors, the men, they lost their wives to the point The wife might be still living with them, but the taskmaster have them. The slave owner have them. Multiplying slaves. So they refuse to turn. They refuse to admit to their wrongdoing. Okay? In one of the verses they said, the people want to know, what did we do? What have we done? You know? They want to know what they've done. Even though they know that they're doing the wrong thing. I mean, in verse 6 rather, it speaks of the fact that, you know, when they were confronted, the prophet confronted them with YAHUAH'S word. They said, well, what have I done? They didn't want to accept that. So it's like the prophet and Yah is putting blame on them for something that they have not done. That is what you call that attitude, that very arrogant attitude, intransigent person. That's the attitude. Wise men, they are ashamed, they are dismayed. You know, they are taken low. They rejected the word of Yahuwah. And what is wisdom towards that? Look in verse 10. Look in verse 10. He said, therefore, it's like I say, a conclusion. He gave their wives. I mean, their wives are taken. He gave the wives to others. And the field, someone else possesses it. Someone else possesses it. And he said, from the least to the greatest. From the least to the greatest, they are greedy for gain. The prophets to the priests, they are act falsely. Prophet, tell the people what they want to hear. The priest is like today's preachers. They tell the people what they want to hear. They don't want to give them the word. Yahuwah said, teach them. Bring the people together and teach them so that this generation that you're teaching now, they will have it, the writing, and when a next generation comes. So it's supposed to be a perpetual thing. Keep it going. Keep teaching it. Keep telling the truth. You remember when Yah gave the commandment to Moshe to give to the people? They should write it down. They should have it there so that the next generation, when they come and they ask. You remember when Joshua, they set up the stones in the middle of the Jordan riverbed? You know what they said? When the children, when you descend and come and look at it and say, what does this stone mean? You tell them. Give them the story of how Yahuwah took them out of the house of bondage in the land of Egypt, and how he watched over them as they were traveling through the desert and through the wilderness, and how he, by night and by day, he sent fog. By night, he sent fire to guide them. Tell them of all the good things. Tell them how he give them water to drink, fountains of water to drink when they were thirsty. Tell them how when they were hungry, how he give them manna. Tell them how he brought them into the land. Tell them all the good things. So people turn their back on Yahuwah, and they don't want to do the right thing, so they say, what have we done? So then, I want you to notice and Yahuwah's intent in verse 10. Because in his listen what he said here. Therefore I give their wives to others, and their fields to possessing ones. Other people coming possessing it. His divine intent to reject those who rejected him. Not only have we seen Yahuwah's opportunity in revealing, as we see from verse 1 through 12, from verse 4 through 12. Not only that we see that, but I want us to notice Yahuwah's opportunity is rejected by the people. He called us. He called us. They rejected him. The sin, the speech, senseless. Senselessness, as we see in verse 7. The stubbornness, as we see in verse 9. They rejected his word. The word of Yahuwah. In verse 10, you see that selflessness, covetousness, shamefulness. Look down it with me. In verses 11 and 12. And they healed the breach of the daughters of my people. And slightly saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Peace, peace, when there is no peace. In verse 12, were they ashamed when they had done abomination? No, they were not ashamed. They were not at all ashamed, nor did they know how to blush. So, they shall fall among those who fall. They shall stumble in the time of their visitation, said Yahuwah. You see, they turn it back on Yahuwah. They turn it back. They did not, they were not, here's it. They were covetous. They were selfish. They were shameless. And he said, neither did they blush. They do it, but hey, nothing to this, no big thing. The attitude towards this was no big thing. We can handle this. Small matters. What prophet telling us there? No. The Yahuwah that brought us to this point. You think Yahuwah is going to bring us to this point and then just drop us, just leave us like that? No. And that's what they feel. That's what they said. My brothers and my sisters, let us walk with Yahuwah. Do not allow ourselves to be taken. Do not allow ourselves to lose out on the great promises and the blessing that he has in store for us. This is your Ray, Yeshua ben Uriah Israel. And we just want to thank you. Thank you for viewing this session. Thank you for liking it. Thank you for your subscription. Thank you for your comments. And we ask you to walk with the King. Shalom.